The timeline is indeed blessed by the drama gods, honey. Hip-hop and love have just fallen apart. Once renowned for his composure, Mendices Harris has entirely blown out, and everyone can watch every horrible moment on the internet. That viral video is spreading faster than influencer scandals. On Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, everyone is looping it as if it were the conclusion of a film. The queen of strategic silence, Yandy Smith, has published her eagerly anticipated post following weeks of frenzied fan speculation. To put it mildly, her comments sent the community into a frenzy. Everything crashed faster than a comment section when a split was made public. One moment, attendees seemed to be enjoying a normal night out, and then there was total chaos. As he screamed, glass flew, and security hurried in. Millions of people witnessed his fury in full HD. These days, people are preoccupied with the internet. What caused the explosion? Something more sinister, hidden dirt, treachery. And Yandy, why haven't you spoken anything yet? The digital streets are on fire, memes are spreading, and ideas are ballooning out of control. But trust me, the whole story behind Mendices' eruption and Yandy's scary reappearance is far stranger than those clips show. Nobody could have predicted what would happen beyond those velvet ropes, so don't panic. The lounge froze as Ashley entered, serving danger and designer. As if she were the owner of the room, everyone turned to stare at her. Wearing a killer costume, she smiled politely at the crowd, but her laser-like eyes were locked on Mendices Harris. He was immediately struck by the gut-punch reminder of all the betrayals, whispered secrets, and late-night texts he thought he had buried behind them. Unaware that a hushed confrontation was about to erupt, people scrolled, drank, and joked. Yandy Smith was mid-laugh when she caught it, initially sparkling and carefree. Mendices' jaw tightened, his posture shifted, and a storm began to form behind his eyes. Her smile disappeared. She recognized that expression, it was never successful. Then Ashley moved. Sharp, delicate, and surgical. She took a step closer and uttered a sentence that was both charming enough to trick everyone in the room and deadly enough to cut through him. "It's amusing to see you here." I was shocked to see how distracted he was. Remarks that don't hurt other people. Mendices daggers. He had a fiery red face. Clenched fists. Jaw tightened. The air crackled. Yandy moved in fast after sensing the explosion. "This is merely a night out. Calm down," Mendices remarked in a calming voice. But the terror was real. He did not hear her. His gaze flitted between Ashley and Yandy. In that little peaceful moment, the night suddenly went from being typical to terrible. The air constricted around Mendices Harris like a trap. The lights were hotter, the voices were sharper, and every glance pierced his serenity. His jaw tightened and his wrists twitched, the first dangerous flicker before the explosion. But Ashley was not going to give up. She stooped. Compared to her perfume, her tone was sweeter. "You look tense, venom wrapped in velvet," she purred. "Do I have to be concerned about you?" In an instant, the switch switched. Mendices became irate. "Don't play with me, Ashley. Don't think you can just bang." He put his palm to the table. Glacier jumped. The sharp crack quieted the room. The eyes widened. Phones rose like a queue of onlookers as someone gasped. "Oh no, he's losing it." Ashley did not flinch. Not even a blink. "Control everything." "Calm down," she replied, grinning a little. "All I'm trying to do is highlight what you've been ignoring," she said. Anger, shame, and fear all culminated in a violent eruption that Yandy Smith sought out in desperation. Mendices stopped, but he stole. He flipped a table, allowing months of frustration to explode in one savage move. Glass cracked and bottles crashed, bringing chaos across the entire room. Reason has been lost. Before the night got completely out of control, Mendices Harris yelled, his voice trembling under the weight of embarrassment and anger, "Make me look like a fool," as security stormed in with their arms outstretched and their voices raised. But he was already gone, furious, shouting, "You think you can come in here and what?" His face turned scarlet as he flailed and unraveled in front of the cameras. Ashley, who remained as calm as a glass, took a short step back and let him spiral so the audience could witness his death as if it were a well-planned scene. She never blinked. The chaos all around them was merely her stage. One gasps took the place of the whispers. Lets out gasps during live broadcasts, the number of phones went up, and the subtitles immediately touched home. Mendices loses it when Ashley walks in. #Shanatlant. The viral storm was gathering before security even blinked. Yandy Smith stepped up and softly took his arm in an attempt to halt the hurt. "Please, let's go outside, baby," she said in a voice that fluctuated between haste and anguish. But Mendices' fierce stare brushed her aside. "Do you really think you can?" He froze in the middle. The situation was intense, with cameras flashing like lightning as security lunged again and dragged him back, while Ashley returned the look with a composed, unreadable expression that suggested she had already won. The audience hummed like a live broadcast, glass shattered, wood splintered, and Mendices' hands began to shake in contrast to her eerie silence. The dagger appeared next. Anger is transforming into regret. Fear is replacing anger. So quiet that only he could hear. "Perhaps this is just what you were looking for." Ashley leaned up close enough to whisper. It was cold, surgical, and it broke him more completely than any shove ever could. Those words, final, violent, and clean, struck Mendices Harris like a knife, shattering something inside of him. For a terrifying moment, the entire lounge seemed on the point of collapse as he flung the last shred of composure into the chaos with a cry. Yandy Smith followed closely behind him as security surrounded and took him toward the exit. In a desperate attempt to calm him, she placed her hand on his back and talked into the storm. Ashley stayed still, flawless, and undisturbed the entire time, and a tiny triumphant smile spread across her face. One thing was clear as the world watched a romance break apart in real time while cameras rolled and live streamed: the consequences have only just begun. Yandy hung on, hurt, confused, and furious, as Ashley's laughter echoed somewhere behind them like the final thunderclap of a hurricane. Mendices gulped for breath outside, hands shaking, thoughts racing. In a couple of minutes, the internet was ablaze with footage of Atlanta's nightlife transformed into a battlefield, glass breaking, tables flipping, and Ashley's arrogant smirk looping non-stop. People couldn't stop staring at Ashley Yandy as she got embroiled in the biggest scandal of the year. Ashley didn't just walk in, she rewrote the entire script. #YandofAshley #Mendices meltdown, one post said. When the city awoke in the morning, commotion notifications were going off, fans were arguing about who started it, and group chats were analyzing every famous photo. But this was not the end. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning. The extent of the betrayal was unknown, and what was happening behind closed doors. That was the real story, the one that will destroy the internet once more. Without even waiting for breakfast, fans were divided on the internet, with some defending Yandy Smith for being truthful. While the others carried Ashley, Ashley was the spark that ignited the entire circus in Mendices Harris's world. The fallout was like a grenade, with calls from frightened friends, surprised family, and that very helpful bro constantly vibrating Mendices' phone. Deal with these brief messages. Man, you need to handle this. Prevent them from winning. Every conversation simply made him feel more ashamed, the betrayal seared. A friend warned. The worst thing was that everyone had seen it. Meanwhile, Yandy's phone became a battlefield. "Are you okay, and how could you let it get that far?" were among the many messages that flowed in, some nasty and some comforting. One of the texts said, "One more defendant." As she scrolled through the noise, the stress increased with every ping. Ashley, on the other side, is described as no panic, no guilt, just strategy. She knew that anything she said would be misconstrued online, but after years of remaining silent, a part of her yearned to finally speak her truth. Steady and haughty, she took a drink of her coffee as her phone rang non-stop with calls from blogs and tabloids begging for a statement. Her comments on Instagram alternated between being cold-blooded and exuding queen energy. It wasn't an accident, she made this gesture because she liked both. Perfectly timed, well-planned, and polished. By mid-morning, trade was booming and chaos had become money. The media circus was in full gear, with headlines screaming from all over the internet, including Hollywood Unlocked, TMZ, and The Shade Room, who were savoring the story like Thanksgiving. Hip-hop and love explode in real time after Ashley's shocking debut, Yandy Smith speaks up, and Mendeecees Harris goes insane. Reaction videos multiplied hourly, clips continued to play, fans scrutinized every second of the Lounge 2 tape like it was evidence in court, and there was a new online craze that no one dared to ignore. Inside, Mendeecees' world was crumbling. He isolated himself, pacing, cursing, and reliving the humiliation over and over. Friends begged him to calm down and make plans, but his ego and anger had already taken control. He prepared statements, voice notes, and even legal threats as a public form of retaliation against Ashley and Yandy, feeling exposed, cornered, and duped in front of millions of people. Meanwhile, Yandy Smith decided that enough was enough and that there would be no more speculation or rumors. With her eyes locked on the camera, she remarked, "I know you've seen the clips," as she went live on Instagram, speaking with a shaking heart and confronting the head of chaos. Although the remarks went viral, there is more to this story than what happened last night. Supporters waited for Ashley, Yandy, or Mendeecees to make the next move. One would win and the other would be reduced to public rubble. The emotional, social, and professional destruction was only beginning, and social media was still on fire. It's likely that the video that everyone saw was only the tip of the iceberg. Timelines were updated, tension reached a fever pitch, yet as soon as the city exhaled, murmuring resumed. A few days later, still devastated by the humiliation, Mendeecees isolated himself in his apartment, pacing, scrolling, and reliving every moment of his own demise. While Yandy remained composed, every meme, GIF, and viral video cut deeper, mocking the man who had lost control. Darker secrets simmered behind closed doors, beyond those polished Instagram postings, just waiting to blow out. And when ACH's wrath subsided, the truth hit him harder. Not only did he lose his anger, but he might also lose her respect, trust, and possibly his place in her cosmos. After days of silence, Yandy Smith began to remove the layers of defensiveness, resentment, and guilt that had built up between her and Mendeecees Harris. Meanwhile, Yandy had to deal with her own storm. As the internet dissected their love story, they had therapy sessions, multiple calls, and the impossible quest for serenity. On social media, her tone shifted from enigmatic titles to quiet admissions of pain, no blame, no darkness, just constrained reality. She battled in private with pride for standing her ground and regret for the guy who had previously stood by her. The first step toward reconciliation was taken in neutral territory, with their families serving as intermediaries and friends serving as referees. Every call is an effort to close the gap that anger and celebrity had created. Yandy reserved a private studio under the guise of a business meeting, and Mendeecees showed up, his mouth clenched and his hands shaking as he met her cool but cautious gaze. The air between them was heavy with unspoken hurt. "We need to talk," he murmured, his voice breaking, but Yandy didn't flinch. "We do," she answered calmly and decisively. "But not in this way, not while we're both still performing in public." The words resonated more than any viral video. They spent hours waiting amid the rubble. The fight, the betrayal, the public humiliation, the private grief. Finally, Mendeecees took off the mask. "Yandy, the sensation of losing control is beyond words. I didn't want it to end like that," she replied, responding to his admission with her own reality: loneliness from loving someone she no longer trusted, exhaustion from keeping everything together, and fear of his wrath. Shame weighed heavy in the air as he confessed. "However, I was also unable to maintain my pretense." In the weeks that followed, therapy became a lifeline for Mendeecees Harris and Yandy Smith, offering a tranquil environment where they could finally turn off the cacophony. The first cracks of healing began to gently develop in that brittle silence between the tension and the tears. Their marriage had turned into a show because of cameras, gossip, blogs, and relentless criticism, and with each session, layers of jealousy, miscommunication, and the toxic spotlight of reality fame were exposed. Finally, they were assessing the damage. Mendices began to acknowledge the expectations and image he had repressed, as well as the stress of being a husband and a father. As a result, Yandy had to deal with her own obstacles, including her propensity to retreat and hide her pain behind composure and well-written blogs. Slowly and gradually, they found a slender thread of connection. Even though I have flaws, I still exist outside of that therapist's office. The world kept spinning, with friends whispering, family members being wary, and fans examining every emoji and caption. They even made news for their silence. But beyond the veil, there was a small but real activity going on. Mindy started checking in before heading out for events. Yandy began reacting without fire. Once concealed by ego, respect started to surface again. One evening, after yet another challenging treatment session, they found themselves on the balcony. City lights glistened beneath them. The tension faded and was replaced by quiet reminiscence. Yandy turned to speak quietly. "Remember our first trip to Atlanta together?" Mendices chuckled. "Something real